Après-midi, tout le monde.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a great weekend at your homes.
Two that this committee adopted last week. We are commencing an emergency study on the economic and supply chain impacts of U.S. tariffs on Canada's metallurgical and advanced manufacturing sectors. I want to welcome three witnesses that we have here in the room with us today, and then a few that will be joining us in the second hour. I also see we have a few new members of committee that are joining us for today. Mr. Lewis, welcome back to you, sir. Just a reminder to our witnesses in the room that if you are not using your earpiece, that it's just placed on the sticker in front of you, please, to protect the health and well-being of our interpreters. And I can confirm that all audio for those joining online has been tested. With that, colleagues, I'd like to welcome the following witnesses that are with us today. From the Canadian Association of Mold Makers, Nicole Vlanich, the Executive Director. Nice to see you again. From Laval Tool and Mold Limited, Jonathan Azopardi, the Chief Executive Officer and President. And joining us online from Liard Industries, Isabelle Liard, the President. So witnesses, you'll have upwards of 5 minutes each for opening remarks, at which point we will turn to our colleagues around the table for a pre-allocated slot of time for questions in order for us to be able to dive more deeply into this. I do want to thank members, their staffs, and the witnesses that are here today for a very quick turnaround. We did not have this discussion until Thursday of last week. It's very unusual to be able to make a committee meeting work as quickly as we did, but due to the coordinating efforts of the clerk, her office, staff, members, and of course witnesses, we were able to elevate the conversation on this very important issue in a expedited and timely manner. With that, peut-être Madame Liard, je ne sais pas si c'est français.
Madame Liash,
C'est français, mais voilà.
you're going to speak French. That's what I thought, but I was told it was French. So you have the floor, Madam, for the next 5 minutes. Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I represent a group of manufacturers in Joliette who've lived for 50 years. We produce customized fixtures. Over the years, we've developed solid relationships with U.S. clients. 60 to 70% of our turnover is in the U.S. Before the 8th of April, as you know, Section 232 tariffs only affected structural products. In our case, that was only 5% of our turnover. Most of our products were not covered by the tariffs. As you know, the 50% tariffs applied had to do with North American aluminum steel. For us, it was 8% of the value of our products when applied. And since the 8th of April, the situation is different now. Now it's 25% of the total value for almost all steel products. So now our sales price for exports is more than 25%. So we are not able to absorb this cost. We cannot reduce our pre-sale cost of 25% so that we can be more competitive on the American market. What I understand is that there may be some exceptions for some products, 15% up to 2027. It's not very clear for me. There may be only 10% tariffs if 85% of our steel is from America. But this is not possible for us because lots of our plates are Canadian, and it's very expensive compared to Canadian products. So this is a significant impact. For more than a year now, we are trying to find new clients in new markets. Conversely, we are bound to produce custom-made products that our clients ask us to do. Now, for us to go outside North America is going to be very difficult for us. And the Canadian market is a lot smaller than the American market, and that is where most of our clients are now. So it's difficult for us to find a new market. Since the tariffs, we've been working hard to try to improve our productivity, but 25% is significant. especially since it came in very fast. Thanks to EDC, who were able to buy some machines to improve productivity thanks to a program that was introduced in the fall. We have invested $3 million in some digital products, but that will take place in the coming months. So the productivity gain cannot be factored in. So we don't know if we will be able to make this investment profitable in the short term. What is most important for us is to preserve our liquidity and maintain our workforce. We have highly skilled employees, and it's difficult to replace them. Nearly 30% are temporary foreign workers who are essential or critical to operations. If we lose them, we will not be able to restart operations. So our main needs are support programs to keep our workers and ensure liquidity, develop markets. It's expensive for us to develop new markets, so we would like very rapid support in this vein. Also, we must continue to communicate with customs experts to understand the rules because the costs are very expensive. We need to access assistance to better understand the new rules. That is very important. We also need more flexibility to maintain our temporary foreign workers. We don't want to lose them. That's it.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Madam Leah.
We'll turn the floor now to you for upwards of 5 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. Special thank you for inviting me here today to speak to you about my briefing on the urgent response required for the Section 232 tariffs and the impact on the Canadian mold-making and steel fabrication industry. My name is Jonathan Azaparty. I'm the owner and CEO of Laval International, also a board and member of the Canadian Association of Mold Makers. I feel it appropriate to give you the overview on the recent changes in the U.S. Section 232 tariffs, including their expanded application to the full value of Canadian-made goods containing steel, represents a significant escalating threat to Canada's mold-making and broader steel fabrication industry. These measures should not be viewed as an isolated temporary trade action. They reflect a deliberate, structured policy direction that risks systematically weakening the Canadian advanced manufacturing base over time. The nature of the threat: unlike the initial proposed tariff increase of 50%, which would have caused immediate severe disruption, the current phased tariff structure of 10 to 15% in 2026 through 2027, increases to 20 to 25% thereafter, presents a strong and strategic sustained challenge. This phased approach creates predictable long-term cost pressures. It enables a gradual erosion of Canadian competitiveness and encourages incremental relocation of production and sourcing decisions into the United States. This should not be interpreted as a short-term negotiation tactic. It is a structured mechanism designed to influence long-term industrial investment decisions. Precedent already created by the automotive sector and its impact. This is a clear precedent for this policy approach. The United States has previously implemented trade and industrial measures that have had the intended effect in shifting automotive production and capacity. The current application of the Section 232 tariff suggests that the attention is now shifting beyond the final assembly plants and to the remaining upstream supply chain, including mold making, tooling, and steel fabrication. The implications for the Canadian industry is wide. The consequences extended well beyond mold making to mold makers, steel fabricators, automation and fixture builders, steel mills, broader manufacturing supply chains. The application of this tariff to the full value finished goods rather than just to the steel inputs disproportionately impacts high value engineered products, penalizing Canadian labor, engineering, and innovation. And that's the industry that we're in. Efforts to diversify away from the U.S. markets may provide some short-term mitigation, but do not resolve the structural disadvantages created within North America. The mold-making sector employs approximately 58,000 within the MTM sector, which contributes well over $2.5 billion directly to the GDP. What is more alarming is the broader supply chain that supports hundreds of thousands of jobs, about $16 billion in GDP, and this industry supports about 12% of the total GDP of Canada. Strategic context: North America competitiveness. Ongoing trade frictions in North America creates a strategic vulnerability. It weakens the integrated continental supply chain. It increases the resilience of the offshore low-cost producers. and its risks enabling external competitors to gain market shares within North America. Canada, the United States, and Mexico share a mutual interest in maintaining a strong and competitive manufacturing base. Call to action. Given the urgency and the scale of the risk, an immediate federal action is required. We respectfully urge the Canadian government to, first, engage with the U.S. counterparts to address the application of the Section 232 tariffs on the full value of the goods. Advocate for exemption for molds and tooling. Tariff and applications limited strictly only to the steel content. Reinforce the importance of integrated North American manufacturing under the USMCA or CUSMA. Recognize the cascading impact across all steel fabricators and supply chain industries. Prepare a targeted support measure should resolutions timelines be extended. The rationale for this urgency. Commercial decisions are being made immediately in this response to this pricing pressure. Market losses are difficult to reverse once production has shifted. Supply chain impacts are widespread and compounding, and workforce displacement risks are imminent. On April 4th, overnight, our industry went from being profitable to not profitable. In conclusion, the current implementation of the Section 232 tariffs represents a structural and strategic challenge to Canada's manufacturing base. Evidence from the automotive sector demonstrates that how this sustained policy pressure can reshape the industrial geography over time. The extension of similar pressures to upstream industries now places Canada's remaining manufacturing ecosystem at risk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Flinich, the floor is yours for upwards of 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today on behalf of the Canadian Association of Mold Makers and our members. CAM represents Canadian mold makers in a broader network of tooling, machining, automation, and advanced manufacturing firms that support production across Canada and North America. I'm here today because the current U.S. tariff environment, and particularly Section 232, presents a serious and immediate concern for our sector and for Canada's manufacturing competitiveness. Our industry may not always be visible to the public, but it is foundational to modern manufacturing. Molds, dies, fixtures, and other precision tooling are the production tools required to manufacture products in automotive, aerospace, medical devices, packaging, consumer goods, construction materials, and industrial equipment. Without tooling, manufacturing programs do not launch, production lines do not run, and supply chains slow down. This is also an industry of real scale. Canadian mold making exports approximately $7 billion annually to the United States. Approximately 75% of Canadian mold making is in Ontario, within which Windsor-Essex is home to the largest cluster of mold makers in North America, exporting $2.4 billion annually. This sector is also deeply tied to cross-border trade. So when we discuss mold making and related tooling, we are not discussing a niche issue. We are discussing a critical enabling industry that supports downstream manufacturing on both sides of the border. Our supply chains are deeply integrated and reliant on each other. We are manufacturing partners, and the issue before you today is not theoretical. Commercial decisions are being made now, projects are being quoted now, customers are deciding where future tooling programs will go now, and Canadian firms are evaluating whether they need a U.S. operating footprint simply to remain competitive. And this is why urgency matters. A central concern for our members is that current tariff treatment does not reflect the true nature of these products. The value of a mold is not simply the steel it contains. Its value comes from engineering, design, CNC machining, software, polishing, testing, project management, and highly skilled tradespeople developed over decades. When tariffs are applied to the full finished product value rather than the steel content alone, they disproportionately penalize value-added manufacturing activity. That creates a structural disadvantage for Canadian firms competing in an integrated North American market. There is also significant uncertainty in administration and compliance. Even experienced custom brokers are reporting confusion regarding classifications, documentation requirements, and treatment of certain products. Many small and medium-sized companies do not have the internal resources to manage rapidly changing and highly technical border requirements. That uncertainty becomes a cost in itself. I would also note that molds and dies are closely related industrial tooling categories. They often serve the same customers, use similar materials, rely on the same skilled trades, and are manufactured using many of the same advanced processes. Where different treatment exists between closely related tooling sectors, it would be appropriate to review whether policy is aligned with the industrial reality. At the same time, Canada is not the source of the problem these measures were intended to address. Canada is a trusted ally, a CUSMA partner, and part of an integrated manufacturing economy. Many Canadian firms purchase U.S. steel, components, coatings, software, and services. Likewise, many U.S. manufacturers rely on Canadian tooling capacity for quality, speed, engineering, expertise, and responsiveness. Weakening this relationship does not strengthen North America, it weakens it. It also risks driving sourcing and investment towards offshore competitors outside of our continent. Our members are looking for continued and urgent engagement with U.S. counterparts regarding Section 232 treatment of molds, tooling, and other value-added manufactured products. There is also a strong need to pursue exemptions or revised treatment where products are clearly part of the integrated North American supply chain. It is also important that closely related tooling sectors, including molds and dies, are treated consistently where their manufacturing processes, materials, and end uses substantially overlap. Finally, if resolution timelines extend, temporary domestic support measures would help viable Canadian firms manage current uncertainty while longer-term solutions are pursued. Members of the committee, this is more than about tariffs. It is about whether Canada retains specialized industrial capability developed over generations. If capacity leaves, if investment pauses, or if skilled people exit the sector, recovery will be difficult, costly, and slow. We have the opportunity to respond now, strategically, and in partnership with industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Flanage. Okay, colleagues, we're going to enter into our first round of questions. Mr. Lewis, the floor is yours for 6 minutes, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks so much to the committee for having this very, very important emergency discussion here today. I will start with Mr. Azzopardi, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Azzopardi. What's the immediate impact if we don't get a resolution to the tariffs on industry? And I don't even want to talk about regionally, I'm talking about Canadian industry. What's the immediate impact? How quickly are companies going to close? How many jobs we're going to lose? What's the fear factor on that front, sir?
It's a twofold question. The first impact is what we're feeling immediately, which is any product that we have on our shop floor that we would have already received contracts for, it's not quoted or nor does it have any provisions for this 10%. We're hoping that it's 10%. It could be 15%, and because of the ambiguity, it might be 50%. There's no industry in Canada that could sustain that type of that hit to the bottom line. Most manufacturers operate at single-digit net profits, so anything greater than 5% is going to make them unprofitable. If they're in a position to be able to look at sourcing in the United States, they'll explore that. The small to medium-sized businesses will not. They will just close. At the end of this, you will likely see that an industry will shrink or leave Canada quite quickly because there's really no incentive at that point to stay in Canada.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Azzopardi, and back through the chair, back to yourself, sir. So you had mentioned in your opening remarks about potential support programs. Are those support programs for 3 months? Are they for 6 months? Are they for a year? I'm just wondering, how do we save industry today so we don't lose it? Because I believe that once industry is gone, it's gone for good. It's gone forever. Can you please expand on the comments that you had made earlier on in your initial remarks?
MP Lewis, you're absolutely right. When industry leaves, it doesn't come back. We've already seen that in the automotive industry. Once these plants close, they very rarely reopen. So the idea that you're going to be able to, change the minds of these companies once they move, that's likely not going to happen because it's too expensive for us to move industry, especially what we do, which is very highly technical, specialized machines. I tell most people that the machines in my shop, one machine costs more than the entire plant and building and land that it sits on. That's not easy to move around. So once it leaves, it's gone. To answer the rest of your question, I don't necessarily think that there's a good opportunity for us to try and save this business if we are looking at something longer than 2 or 3 months. You have to understand that this is an aging industry, right? Most of our owners are 65 years old. They're not going to stick around to try and fight this and go around again, right? Most of them will look at either closing their companies or moving them or trying to sell them, right? And the problem is immediately overnight, the multiples for these companies were cut in half, if not greater, because they are no longer profitable. Nobody's going to buy a business that's not profitable now. It will just close, right? Or relocate.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, back through you to Mr. Azzopardi, and then I'll move on to Ms. Vlanich if I could. Mr. Azzopardi, how many employees would be at Laval Industry?
Currently, today, we employ 132.
So 132 employees. If we just say that many of those employees have potentially 2 people in the house, probably more, potentially. That's a lot of food on Canadians' tables, a lot of food on local tables that wouldn't be there otherwise, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Azzopardi. I'll move on through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Vlanich. In your opening testimony, you spoke about Michigan, and I found that very interesting. I loved it. My question is, how many of the members, how many are Michigan members and how many are Canadian members? Or U.S. members and how many are Canadian members?
I would say about 80% to 20%, 80% Canadian for our membership. We do have some, about 20% in the U.S. and Michigan.
Okay, and is there, obviously there must be a lot of integration between the 80 and the 20, right? So those tools, those molds are going back and forth. Whatever that tool is, it's going back and forth. Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Vlanich, this weekend, the Prime Minister delivered an address to Canadians that, among other priorities, spotlighted his government's deepening strategy of divorce from the U.S., Canada's largest trading partner and the world's richest economy. In that address, Mr. Carney suggested that regard for the deeply integrated nature of the North American supply chain was merely nostalgia. Your members right now, their jobs depend on this relationship. Is that just nostalgia, or is it the painfully real reality that you and your members, whether you like it or not, must contend with?
I'm not sure what Prime Minister Carney thinks or President Trump thinks. What I know on behalf of our members is these are real businesses, real jobs, and real families that are being impacted, and they need a solution.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I know my time is running shy, and I also know just about a month ago we had our leader, Pierre Poilievre, in Windsor calling for an auto pact, and that was turned down. So with that, sir, I'll cede the remainder of my time, but I say thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Bardizzi, the floor is yours for 6 minutes.
Merci bien, et je vais juste
Thank you. I'll ask a few questions to properly understand what is happening, particularly in your businesses and in your sector. Let me start with Ms. Liard. Could you share with us ballpark figures? What is the proportion of sales in Canada, the United States, and outside? We have 5 million.
Ça veut dire que c'est 350 000.
3.5 million in the US, and the rest is in Canada. And outside the North America, we are subcontractors with mechanical products, so it's practically impossible for us to get out. For Mr. Azzopardi, same question. What are your sales in Canada and the United States?
We could make a valid argument to say that over 90% is either directly or indirectly will land in the United States. What I mean by that is that even if I'm shipping product to Mexico or if I'm shipping it to Canada, it will likely have a final destination of the United States. So we could easily say 90. Sales by volume, I'd probably say that it's probably 80% is U.S., the other 20% is Canadian.
And what, Mr. Azzopardi, what are your American customers saying about what happened and the kinds of decisions they're now faced with?
It's a complicated question, MP. I will say that I've taken it upon myself to call every one of my clients every month since the tariffs have started to make sure that we're staying in contact, not only what's being said on that side of the border, but to understand what's really being said behind closed doors. And our clients do not want to not do business with Canada, right? They want to do business with Canada. But it's being more increasingly difficult to do business in the uncertainty of the environment we're in. The uncertainty is as bad as the tariffs. Now the uncertainty has been backed up by tariffs that make it unfeasible to do business with Canada. What we have seen is that even the CEOs and presidents of these corporations in the United States, they're drinking the Kool-Aid and they're admitting that the Kool-Aid is poison, if that makes sense, right? They're doing it they have no choice. And they're actually doing something that's far worse, is that they're not even putting that work in the United States. That work is actually not going to Canada, it's not going to the United States, and I've given 6 reasons why that is, so in my briefing you can see it. Most of it is going to Mexico now. And once it's sourced to Mexico, it's not coming back to the United States, and it's not coming back to Canada.
You mentioned the 130 employees, team members. What are you saying to them in this moment, and what are they saying to you?
We've been through this before, not to this magnitude. We are going to continue to diversify our customer base and find ways to mitigate this as much as we can, but we can only do so much. We have proposals and mitigation tactics that will buy us between 3 and 6 months, but if this remains unchanged in the next 12 months, we will be staring at the bill of about $5 million in tariffs that will be going to the United States, and we only make about $2.5 million. So we will have to take some type of action between now and 12 months from now.
Je vais retourner juste brièvement à Madame.
Let me briefly turn back to Madam Liad. We had support in the past 12 months when we had tariffs introduced. Besides an agreement concerning the tariffs directly, what kind of support are you expecting from the government? For now, I would like support to maintain our employees at work. That is the most disturbing because we can lose our highly qualified workers. If there's less work, for time for us to reorganize and find solutions, we will really need to keep our employees at work. If they leave, I will not continue manufacturing. That's my priority, keep my employees at work. Over the past 6 months, work has dropped. Because of the situation in the U.S., there's less investment in companies there. So I have maintained my employees at work since the beginning of the crisis last summer. We are trying to improve factory. About 50% of my employees are working on products that we create here. So the problem is cash flow. But in the long term, we will not be viable. Very well.
Guardian, Madame Vlanich, what kind of supports, in addition to the resolution of the trade issue itself, are you looking for, both from the company and the sectoral perspective?
I mean, besides what my colleague already said, I'm going to take it from a different, higher level. I'm going to answer on behalf of my industry and say that we understand that our role is going to be one of a sacrificial lamb, a meat shield for this government and this country in the short term and long term. But you need to grant us the grace and the respect to tell us, what is the plan? Is this a 2 to 3 month plan? Is this a 6 month plan? Is this a 1 year plan? My answer will be different for each one of those scenarios, because you have to admit and come up with the reality that what you're asking of us is to stand to the front line of a trade war with the United States, and we are the front line. As we prepare for this, we are preparing for the risk of our businesses. We're playing and gambling with the future of our employees, and we don't know really how long this is going to go. So you ask for what my answer is for what support. I ask you, tell us what the plan is, because you're asking us to toe the line right now, and we really don't know how long it's going to be. If you tell me it's July, we'll probably be okay. If you tell me it's going to go much longer than that, then we need to come up with some serious measures to be able to support these companies, because right now Canada and the United States, for all the reasons I put down, are the two ugly sisters. And what's leaving is never coming back. So I ask the question, how long do you want us to hold the line?
we're over time, but Ms. Blanchard, I'm going to afford you just 30 seconds here to respond to that question, if you like.
Okay. I'll just quickly say, I mean, in reality, beyond the CUSMA agreement, a fair trade agreement between Canada and the U.S. and the ability to return to doing business as usual, there's no long-term strategy beyond that. Short-term, I say the same thing. It depends how much time are we looking at here. If we're looking at a couple of months, then what we're asking for is a little bit different than if we're looking at beyond that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bardizzi. Monsieur Saint-Marie, la parole à vous pour 6 minutes.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to all colleagues. Thank you, witnesses, for being here today for us to discuss this issue, which apparently is not sufficiently taken into account by the government. So we hope that this study will help highlight the importance of taking action. My question is for Ms. Leah. Thank you for your presentation. If I summarize, your company has existed for decades, a family-owned SME that deals with metallurgy. 50% of its products, 70% of its products are exported to the United States. And since the tariffs were introduced by President Trump a year ago, there's a lot of concern. There are many SMEs in the same sector in Quebec and in Ontario facing the same situation. And from what you've said, most of the products that you export were not impacted by the tariffs, but with the annex that was published, a lot more products were added now. Now most of your products are covered by the tariffs. So 50% of steel or aluminum components represent 25% of the total value of the product. Am I correct? Yes. Now, I think for our colleagues, it's important for them to see that even though steel and aluminum products were not targeted by the tariffs up to April, like for Ms. Leah's company, only 5% was impacted. About 5% because we had a lot of structural steel. A lot of our products were more machinery because we produce machines that we send to the U.S. as spare parts, and these were not impacted by the tariffs. We understand that things with steel will be impacted. So I export lots of spare parts per week. So things are going to be a lot more expensive now. So if nothing is done for you, this situation would be terrible for your company. And over time, your company may no longer be viable. That is what is most concerning. We are not sure how our American partners will react. We have not heard back from them yet. But we think that they themselves do not understand what is happening because there's always a lag between what is being said and what is being done in reality. So our American clients have had relationships with us for 20, 40 years. So there's been a great relationship of loyalty, but this could be compromised when it costs them 25% more. So they may decide to find other partners in America. I also have subcontractors in processing and in steel, and they themselves will be affected. So it's very concerning because like companies like yours, family-run, have been running for a few years. You are affected by the tariffs. You mentioned an article in Les Affaires newspaper. There's a study that was done in Ontario and Quebec. More than 50% of products exported to the U.S. contain steel and aluminum and may be impacted by these tariffs. So throughout Quebec, we have SMEs like your SMEs who have clients in the U.S. and who have been exported and who have been exporting to the United States, and overnight they find themselves in a situation where they are impacted, and this is very concerning. You are right. As you know, 15, 20 years ago, we were told to export, to develop business partners in the U.S., and that's what we did. But now we are faced with a situation of sales numbers that are not viable. We need to find Canadian clients, and sometimes our Canadian clients tend towards the United States. And I have my subcontractors who are my clients, and they are also affected. So we have lots of businesses affected. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's disturbing, but your presentation is quite clear. In the order, it says that if you use only American steel, the tariff will not be 25% but 10%. But you are saying it's impossible for you to do so because it's not all types of steel that is produced in the United States, and it's a lot more expensive. We have a great industry when it comes to steel production. Canadian steel is high quality, affordable steel. 80% of my steel is Canadian. So now to tell my suppliers that they have to use American steel now would be a problem because they are not major steel producers. So they try, it's more expensive for them to export, so they sell less abroad. So it's difficult for us. It's impossible to have 80% of American steel in our products here. So it's not possible for us to do that. That's clear. Thank you very much. Mr. Saint-Marie, unfortunately, well, maybe during the next turn I'll ask other questions. Exactly.
The floor is
Thank you very much to all the witnesses for being here today on such short notice. As we all know, this is a really huge problem within the mold and mold industry, and any industries dealing with metals, any industries shipping to the States. Mr. Azzopardi, how critical is a long-term trade agreement to the survival of the mold-making industry?
It's essential. It's critical. I think we're fooling ourselves if we think that there will be a manufacturing industrial sector in Canada without the United States.
And what is the approximate value of goods that your company ships to the United States, and what ratio of your products, like how much do you sell to Canada and how much do you sell to the United States?
Again, I go back to what I said before. It's probably 90%. So I'll give you an example. We make jet skis, and they come to Quebec, and Quebec takes those and turns those into the final product, and they will probably sell 1 in every 10 to Canada. The other 9 will go to the United States. So whether we want to admit it or not, even when we ship to Canada, those products still depend on the U.S. consumer.
And what can the government do to support your business? I know you listed several things, but what is the most important thing that they can do, or the top 2 or 3 things that they can do to support you right now?
Besides the obvious in getting us an agreement, right now, if we're dealing in the short term, these companies are losing money every day, which means that they're likely, the banks will start to withdraw their support. These companies rely on lines of credit to be able to run their business. So they're going to have to be shored up immediately through EDC or BDC. Okay, that would be the first thing. The second thing is that if we're not going to get a free trade agreement with the United States, we need to be able to reduce their bottom line so that they can afford to absorb the 10% today. As I said before, they're single-digit profits. 10% will make them now not profitable. You now have to convince them to stay in Canada, which that can be through subsidies, that can be through ways to support their business outside of that. But right now, they are considering moving or closing.
Thank you. Ms. Vlanich, same question for you. How critical is a long-term trade agreement to the survival of the mold-making industry?
It's absolutely critical. There will be no mold-making industry in Canada without the trade agreement, and that impacts the manufacturing supply chain. Mold making is the first step, so without it, it would be detrimental to Canada's manufacturing sector. And there are impacts on both sides of the border, so it is mutually beneficial to come to an agreement.
You have many members. Do you have an approximate value of the goods that your members ship to the United States yearly?
I can get that to you. I don't have that specifically, but we know that it's 80% of what they produce is sent to the U.S. And we also know that the nature of our industry requires these goods to go back and forth multiple times. And the way the tariffs are set up right now, from our current understanding, is every time it's going across, all the value that's now been added to that is now tariffed.
What would you ask of the government in order for them, your companies, your members, to get support for their businesses?
To come to an agreement, go to the table with our friends in the United States. They're our partners. We operate, when it comes to manufacturing, more or less as one. So go to the table, come to an agreement so that we can put this past us and get back to business.
Thank you. And for Ms. Laird, I'd like to ask you the same questions, Ms. Laird. How critical do you believe a long-term trade agreement to the survival of the mold making to your business? How critical is a long-term trade agreement?
Excusez-moi, ça traduisait.
I was still listening to the interpretation. Yes, definitely, long-term agreement is primordial. We must negotiate with the United States in order to reduce the tariffs. It's difficult for SMEs like ours who export to the U.S. to live only through selling to Canada. So we need an agreement with the United States in the long term.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Borelli. Madame O'Rourke, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. We all want the same thing here. We all want a strong, advanced manufacturing sector. I'm a member of Parliament for Guelph. We are a hub of advanced manufacturing. And we all want a trade deal with the Americans, right? So I just would like to know, with respect to steel and aluminum, there is already a large enterprise tariff loan facility that is available. And would that be suitable for the short term in order to create a bridge until we have some more certainty? So I'm curious whether that or the Strategic Response Fund is able to respond, and if you're having those conversations with the minister.
I think I'm probably best to answer that question. Yes, we have already accessed the Strategic Relief Fund, and we are using it. And I can tell you how we're using it, which is to increase our competitiveness to try and take some of that work back that we've lost to the EU. But it's not really getting anything back from the United States. And I'll tell you why that is, because the tariff is now the problem, not our competitiveness, not our efficiencies, right? Now the burden is upon our clients, right? So our burden is, as soon as they buy a mold from us, they're either going to pay the 10% tariff or we're going to absorb it, right? So we're trying to be more competitive in a world it's nothing to do with competitiveness at this point. It's not going to solve the problem. Will it allow us to push the problem down the road a little bit? Maybe once we get this behind us. But right now the major problem is that clients are asking us every day to not only match the price but beat the price. And now we have this 10% or 15% tariff on top of us. And one thing that we haven't talked about during this meeting is that you have to understand, for us to get to the 10% tariff, we have to buy U.S. steel. U.S. steel comes at a premium because of all the bad decisions that our American friends have made, but we also get penalized for bringing in that U.S. steel. This government ignores the fact that that continues to put us at a disadvantage. It's punitive. It's not counter tariff, it's punitive tariffs. It only continues to erode our position in trying to be in a competitive world. Buying new machines and making our plant beautiful, we're doing that. But at some point, we have to deal with the fact that if we're not profitable, we're not profitable. And those decisions are coming down sooner and quicker. I honestly think the decision here is that we need to start to dive into the problem. There are solutions. We need the Canadian government to fight on our behalf. It's not going to happen here in Ottawa. It's going to happen in Washington. We need a timetable. We need to start to work together. And I'm going to be honest with you, we are already looking at hiring consultants ourselves because we don't think we're getting anywhere.
Okay. So it's certain that everyone wants to get to a place of more certainty for all of our manufacturers, and especially for the sectors that are most affected: steel, aluminum, copper, automotive, and advanced manufacturing. So we're all on the same page for that. So the question was around, there's the large enterprise tariff loan that was used to support steel and aluminum and continues to do that. Then there's a strategic response fund. There's the regional tariff relief, which I suspect is the one that you're talking about. And then liquidity through EDC or BDC would be possible as well. Another tactic that I'm curious about is whether the industry is supporting businesses to look at their HS codes. Because it's my understanding that large organizations like Martin Rea, like Linamar, they were able to review their HS codes and put them in a marginally better position. So is that a support that the industry can offer to the small and medium business? Understanding it's so difficult for the small and medium businesses to be able to do all of this and work on the business.
So as an association that represents an industry, so we have provided that information. We've done a lot of sessions. We've brought in custom brokers and other experts to help our members to ensure that the HS codes that they're using are correct. The issue is the additional cost when it comes to the tariffs. They need to be able to do business. And when a lot of our member companies have 10 or less employees, so they don't have big, offices that are able to address things like this that come up. And they just need to be able to do their work. All the supports that are available, conversations with diversifying to new markets, it will never touch the business that we have with the U.S. ever. There's no way from anywhere else in the world that we are going to match what the business we get with the U.S. And that's, that there's no way around it. So the supports that are there, our members do take advantage of them. We help them as an association around HS codes and stuff, but they continue to voice they need an agreement. There has to be the CUSMA agreement.
Thank you, Madame O'Rourke. Unfortunately,
the best one was coming.
You're out of time. Well, maybe one of your colleagues will be generous to give some of their time over to you. Monsieur Saint-Marie, on retourne à vous, 2 minutes, 30 secondes.
2.5 minutes, Mr. Saint-Marie. Thank you, Chair. Still for Ms. Leah, in 2 minutes, please tell us again about the importance of temporary workers. You said they account for 30% of your workforce, and they are highly skilled workers, welders, machinists, and so on. Why is it impossible to find them here, to find the people who doing those jobs? The government has provided a 1-year extension for temporary foreign worker permits. Is it sufficient? What should the government do about that? Yes, they account for 30% of my workforce. It's difficult to find qualified workers in Quebec. Training centers are almost empty. We don't have skilled workers graduating. When I advertise positions, I receive only a few CVs, and sometimes the CVs are from abroad. So it's almost impossible. Every year, we work hard. I continue advertising positions. I recently advertised positions for welders. I received CVs from concierge. It's not sufficient. What will happen after 1 year? Will it be extended for another 1 year? A year goes very fast. Sometimes it takes time to renew the permits. We need to start all over again, asking for a renewal. So that's a problem. We have enough stress from the United States and the tariffs, and we don't want to add an additional layer of stress with temporary foreign workers. We don't need stress from our own government with temporary workers. If the government can help us in that regard, it will be appreciated. Thank you. Yes, we have the issue with the United States, but there's a problem of temporary foreign workers where the government can act fast. I've talked about a 1-year extension and an additional 1-year extension for more stability. Now, you talked about continuous communication with customs experts to discuss all these changes, and that is expensive. Would you also like support? You said you would like support in that area as well. Could you tell us more about that? It's very complicated right now. I am an SME with about 30 employees, and I believe other SMEs are in the same situation. Every time there are new measures introduced, I just learned about a 25% tariff on my products in the news. So when we hear that, we try to get more information. We communicate with customs experts, and we have to pay $200 per hour. And that has been the situation since last summer. Sometimes I have to spend hours with them to understand the situation. I have to prepare my declarations about my steel content and so on. So we would like the government to help to have a dedicated line for businesses to help us instead of us having to pay $200 per hour for people to help us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Merci, Monsieur Saint-
Thank you, Mr. Saint-Marie. Mr. Gould, welcome to industry community. You have 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm delighted to be here. My question is for Ms. Liad. Yesterday, the Prime Minister talked to Canadians, and he seemed to say that exports were an opportunity, but now it's a problem. What you heard yesterday, was it reassuring? All that is being said sounds good. I understand that we need to be less dependent on the United States. But what do we do now? What should I turn to? What should I do? Where should I sell my products? The Quebec government and the government of Canada last year in the fall made great announcements in the mills and so on. These are huge projects that I will see realized in the short term. So products like that could help if we were able to process metallurgy in our country. But it takes a lot of things. It takes suppliers. So we need to have Canadian suppliers providing this equipment. So yes, these are opportunities, but things need to move fast if we should stop depending on the U.S. So we need to boost investments in Canadian companies. The government has introduced a number of things. Is this a viable solution in the short term, or do you think it's going to simply worsen your situation? Sorry, I missed the beginning. The loan facilities introduced by the government for SMEs, do you think it can be viable in the short or medium term, or do you think it's simply going to worsen your financial situation if there's no solution? Loan facilities. Well, I don't want to take any more loans at this time. I don't want the government to loan me money and have me reimburse them money. That's not what I need. I don't want to take on more debt. At some point, I have to repay loans taken from the banks. So not anymore. My next question is for Mr. Azubadi. What do you think about the loan program? Do you think it will help you or worsen the financial situation of your company? Because I think the government has come up with some of such facilities.
Not a good option. What we just talked about is that we are looking to protect our profitability. The less profitability we have, the less money we have to be able to pay for the loans. And we also still have to demonstrate to the government that we're a profitable and viable company. And by these measures, we will not measure up to that standard. So the loans aren't necessarily going to help, and we'll be lucky if we get them. And again, as I said before, you're trying to build a business, but somebody has to take that product, right? Competitiveness is only going to get us so far. The 10 to 25% that we're going to see doesn't get us there. And if you figure it out, in 18 months from now, 25% tariff, there is no industry in Canada that will survive a 25% tariff. I don't care how much you invest, how many machines you buy, how many things you do in your plant to try and make your business viable. Nobody survives 25%. There's no plan. The automotive industry already showed you that even them cannot find a solution for this. How are small to medium-sized businesses going to be able to find this, right? It's good. Don't get me wrong. We're preparing our you asked me, MP, what am I telling my employees? We are painting the building. I just bought a brand new machine. I just took a loan from the federal government because I'm planning that the sun's going to come up tomorrow, right? I'm planning for that. But if it doesn't come up and we don't have an agreement, there's likely going to be a lot of companies that are going to have no choice but to have to move to the United States. And it's not great there either. Mexico is the next alternative.
Madame Vlanish, est-ce que...
Madam Vlanish, do you think that the government is doing all it can possibly do along with its teams? Is the Prime Minister ready to put his head on the line to defend your industry, which really needs negotiations that would end one way or another, and we are hoping positively?
I'm not sure what meetings and conversations the Prime Minister is having, so I don't want to speak on that. But what I do know is our industry is relying on our government to get something done for them so they can continue existing. On the topics of loans, for example, the companies cannot afford to use loans to keep themselves going. And they also made that mistake at the beginning of the EV transition, and then contracts were canceled, and they were still stuck paying for equipment that was purchased specifically just to build the EVs that they never ended up building the parts for. So I can understand that they have a little bit of hesitancy to wanting to take loans again for something that there's no guarantee that they'll be here a year from now.
Avez-vous
Merci,
l'impression
M.
que...
Gault. Malheureusement,
Thank you, Mr. Good. Unfortunately, your time is up.
it was yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for joining us today. I mean, we've talked quite a bit about the tariffs and the challenges that they're posing, and we also heard today that the Supreme Court in the U.S. Is starting to pay back some of the tariffs, but I think the real solutions that we've talked about here still need to be, the negotiation needs to happen, and I wanted to talk a little bit about, maybe to Ms. Vlanic, you talked about Canada's mold, tool, and die and machining sector, and you mentioned aerospace. I have background in aerospace. I'm curious about, if you can talk a little bit about the $16 billion that's been mentioned. Industry annually exports 6 to 8 billion of that to annually from the mold, tool, and die and machining sector to the U.S. Do you have other figures of the remaining 10 billion breakdown between domestic consumption and non-U.S. exports?
I don't have that with me, but it's from the Trillium Machining Network report, so I can get that information to you, more numbers.
Please. And then maybe the ripple effects that you're talking about with the various sectors, automotive, of course, being the biggest that we've talked a lot about here, and how these effects will ripple through supply chains to consumers. Maybe sector by sector, are there others, again, like I mentioned, the aerospace and others?
So mold makers are intertwined in the most things. Anything that you own that's plastic started with a mold. So when we're talking about mold making, yes, automotive is a big part of it, especially in Windsor, Essex. But then there's packaging, there's consumer products, there's medical devices, aerospace, defense, glasses, cell phone cases. Everybody, has something that was created with a mold. So it is across all industries that would have an impact.
Sure. And then again, we talked a little bit about the tools and the various sectors. It's heading at all these different sectors, but maybe you can talk a little bit about past difficulties with dealing with tariffs. Has that been something that's happened, and how have you responded to that? The industry, how vocal your organization has been, and what maybe you're doing right now on the ground in Washington, D.C.
So our members were always CUSMA compliant, so tariffs were never a concern prior to 2025. And then now in 2025, they were hit with tariffs. So just as an example, one of our members was hit with tariffs last year, and it was $1,500 on that mold crossing. Now it's on the full PO value, so now they're paying over $30,000 for that same exact product. So it has been very impactful to them now. Prior to that, they were always, like I said, CUSMA compliant, so they didn't have to worry about being charged tariffs on the goods that they were crossing with, and that's ultimately the goal that we need to return to.
Maybe I'll switch to Mr. Azzopardi. You talked about being at the table in Washington, D.C. Similar question, what are you doing right now to, you said you talked to people that you're working with, your clients, you're calling them. Have you gone there and have you had some discussions? Are they supporting those discussions at the table?
Surprisingly enough, we're getting a lot of support in the United States. Like I said before, they're drinking the Kool-Aid even knowing that it's a poison Kool-Aid, right? They don't like what's going on, so they're trying to find alternatives. So we are finding alternatives, and I'd rather not talk about them in this forum, but a one-on-one meeting we could talk about those. There are HIS codes opportunities. We know that the dyes that are crossing the border today are exempt. Mold should be exempt as well. These are low-hanging fruit opportunities that we can work with the federal government to get in front of the right people at USTR to be able to make these decisions who are going to be able to help us with these immediate actions, right? But we need the federal government to listen. That's why we're here today. Now the next steps are we need to sit down on a one-on-one basis with those ministers who can help us so that they can actually go to work for us in Washington. Although I did tell you that we are hiring consultants, we are seriously looking at consultants. We're being asked to do that so that we can get representatives in Washington to start to fight on our behalf.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baines. Colleagues, that brings us to the end of the first hour. Very much want to thank again the three witnesses for availing yourselves today. We know it's a very challenging time for yourselves personally and, of course, for all of those that you represent and, by extension, their families and surrounding communities. Appreciate the fact that you've taken some time to be with us here today to deepen our understanding of the challenges before us. Feel free, of course, always to keep in touch if there are reflections or other correspondence that you'd like the committee to evaluate as time goes by here. We'd certainly be happy to do that. Colleagues, we're going to suspend temporarily, and we'll come back in about 5 minutes for the second hour. Suspended. back. We are going to continue with the second hour of questions here on the conversation surrounding Section 232 tariffs, and particularly the impact on mold makers and direct and indirect manufacturing in Canada. So we've got a few new witnesses with us here today. From Cap Thin Molds, Cyrus Jabeli, the president, is here with us today in the room. From Cavalier Tool and Manufacturing Limited, we have both Chris Vanderpark, the international business manager, as well as Diane Ritchie-Woodowis. I believe, Mr. Vanderpark, you're going to be speaking on behalf of the organization, if I have that correct. And joining us online, and I understand just confirmed on our very short notice about an hour ago. So thank you very much to Madame Blanchet, who is here, the Vice President for Business Development from Prexor Incorporated. So with that, peut-être Madame Blanchet, we will start with you. You'll have upwards of 5 minutes for introductory remarks. You're just muted, Madame Blanchet.
Excusez-moi, je m'adresse à vous.
I'm sorry, I'm speaking to you in my capacity as engineer, co-owner of Optimum, and board member of the Canadian Association of Mold Makers. We are a Quebecan business with more than 40 years of expertise in the design and fabrication of high-precision molds in strategic domains like medical and defense. Such industries are being threatened with disappearance because of unfair direct competition from other countries for 25 years. This sudden tariff imposition from the U.S. is also continuing to erode this sector. Prexor, which employs only 30 people, is now the greatest mold producer in Quebec. After many of our colleagues close shop, our capacity is being eroded, and our capacity and independence will be affected. Because of the situation after the Great Wars, this industry autonomy is vital. 60% of my production goes to the United States. It's the basis of our clientele, and we want to maintain operations. With these new tariffs, the uncertainty with doing business in Canada is growing in the minds of our clients, and they will turn towards other more affordable countries with fewer tariffs. We cannot afford lobbyists, and we cannot move our employees. We need to close shop in the medium term if nothing changes. Our industry is based on know-how that is based on years of specialized training and use of high-value complex equipment. Sometimes this expertise is lost, and we cannot find it overnight. To ensure a sovereign supply chain and maintain and defend our national sovereignty, and to be able to produce weapons that could be used on Canadian soil, Canada should depend on an independent manufacturing industry. We are at the foundation of every good produced in Canada. This industry needs government support. Right away, we want to preserve our workforce and ensure that Canada doesn't depend on third parties for its security. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just say that the photograph behind you, to your left, looks great. I don't know who is there, but I like the little cap. Thank you very much.
I'm going to turn the floor over to you, sir, for upwards of 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Chris Vanderpark. I'm the International Business Manager at Cavalier Tool Manufacturing. I'm joined by Diane Ritchie-Woodowis, our Chief Financial Officer. Cavalier Tool is a family-owned plastic injection mold manufacturer based in Windsor, Ontario. We have been in business for 50 years, designing and manufacturing precision plastic injection molds, upstream tooling that enables production across automotive, commercial goods, agricultural goods, recreational vehicles, construction, aerospace, in advanced industrial markets. Simply put, we make things that make things. We operate 3 facilities in Windsor, Ontario, with our 3rd plant completing a major expansion in January of 2025. That investment was based on the expectation of stability, long-term growth, and continued participation in integrated manufacturing supply chains from January 2025 and beyond. We are proud to be part of Canada's advanced manufacturing base and highly integrated North American supply chain, built on cost, quality, reliability, and predictable execution. Manufacturing depends on rules that are clear, durable, and consistent over the life of a project. Over the past year, that consistency has eroded. Since February 2025, the rules governing the shipment of Canadian injection molds into the United States have changed 7 separate times. At Cavalier Tool, we have been operating in an environment of continuously shifting requirements despite full compliance of CUSMA. These changes were not confined to a single action or policy. They included tariffs being imposed, enforcement pauses, exceptions being restored, scope expansions, the terminations of tariffs imposed under IEEPA authority, the reclassification of injection molds as derivative products under Section 232, and most recently, a fundamental change in how tariff value is calculated, again, under Section 232. Each change has required manufacturers like us to reprice work, revisit contracts, reassess delivery schedules, and manage commercial risk. Often, projects were already well underway. Injection molds are not commodity products. They are custom engineered capital assets designed and built over many months and thousands of skilled hours. Pricing, scheduling, and capacity planning are committed long before a mold ever ships. When trade rules change midstream, commercial risk shifts primarily to the manufacturer. Customers delay decisions or reopen negotiations, projects are paused or slowed, and planning becomes defensive rather than strategic. As a direct result of repeated rule changes, Cavalier Tool has been forced to alter how we conduct business. Every quotation we issue today includes the following language: tariffs, duties, or government-imposed surcharges are not included in this quotation. Any such charges applicable at the time of shipment shall be the responsibility of the customer. That language did not exist in our business before. It is not a legal precaution. It is not a negotiating strategy. It reflects the reality that we can no longer confidently state what the rules will be when we ship a tool. When our customers see conditional pricing, they hesitate, not because they doubt Canadian quality or capability, but because they can no longer clearly quantify their financial exposure or delivery risk. When that hesitation becomes common, orders slow, programs are deferred, investment decisions are delayed, and work migrates elsewhere. Once that work leaves and once industrial capacity erodes, it is exceptionally difficult to rebuild, even though we are working within CUSMA. We are a resilient industry. We have adapted for decades. But what has fundamentally changed is uncertainty. Imagine negotiating the purchase of a new car. You agree on a price, you arrange financing, you return to the dealership to go pick it up, only to find out they've raised the price 15%. You would object, you would look elsewhere, you would not return. That is how repeated rule changes feel to our customers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vanderberg. Mr. Givelli, the floor is yours for upwards of 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Cyrus Givelli. I'm the founder and president of Captain Molds, a manufacturing company in Mississauga, Ontario. Good afternoon, members of the committee. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you in regards with the current Canada-US business and tariff, and specifically Section 232. Captain Molds is a major supplier of high-precision injection molds, serving the food and beverage medical, and personal care industries. Our company has been significantly impacted by newly implemented U.S. tariffs affecting both our products and services we provide to our customers in the United States. To illustrate the real economic impact of this situation, I would like to share a concrete example of a recent project. A 72-cavity injection mold valued $900,000 US, used to produce plastic caps for beverage packaging, was shipped to a US customer back in November 2025. As a result of tariffs imposed on August 15, 2025, an additional cost of $35,000 US was added to the cost of project. Notably, the contract for this project had been signed prior to the announcement of these tariffs, making this cost entirely unexpected and not accounted for in the original project pricing. An identical 72-cavity mold was shipped to the same customer on April 14, 2026. Due to the implementation of new Section 232 tariffs, effective April 6, 2026, this project significantly had a higher tariff of $135,000 US. This example illustrates a nearly four-folded increase in tariff burden on the same product within span of less than 6 months, highlighting the significant and unpredictable financial impact on recent trade policy changes on cross-border manufacturing projects. StackTech is another Canadian company in Brampton, Ontario, a member of Canadian Mold Making Association, is also a major supplier of injection molds for food and beverage industry, medical, personal care products, and industrial containers. StackTech ships approximately $42 million US in molds and automation to customers in the US on an annual basis. StackTech employs 281 employees in Greater Toronto area and purchases over $30 million US of goods and services annually from local businesses in GTA. We have all seen a negative impact on our business volumes as a result of 232 steel tariff imposed last year. A typical project can range from $500,000 US to $2.5 million US. A 15% tariff is far beyond the contingency funds our customers can typically absorb. With the new tariff of 15% set to increase to 25% in 2028, we will be extremely challenged to remain competitive over our European and Asian competitors. If these higher level tariffs are not reduced, we believe this will significantly reduce our order volume and will ultimately result in having to move a significant portion of our operation to United States. Our supply chains.
Mr. Jabali, I'm just going to take the opportunity as you sip that water to let you know we are over time, so I'll give you 20 seconds to just conclude
Okay,
your
I'll make it quick.
remarks.
Let me just get to the very last point. I would like to emphasize that during the COVID-19 pandemic, our industry was designated as essential and remain fully operational through the shutdowns to support the continuity of critical supply chains, including food packaging and medical products. Thank you.
Thank you very much. OK, on va commencer avec les questions. We're going to start now. Monsieur Gourde, la parole à vous.
Mr. Gu, 6 minutes. Thank you, Chair. I'll be sharing my time with Madame Borelli. My question is for Ms. Catherine Blanchette. I have the impression that we are running against the watch to save businesses like yours. Could you tell us more about what you need to save your businesses? What we need is that the uncertainty be eliminated. We need to negotiate with the United States for our manufacturing industries to survive. It's the basis of the economy. It's surprising that only 15% of the manufacturing industry, but it's the core of our economy. So we need negotiations with the U.S. I could tell you that I need subsidies. I need financial aid. Yes, I'll be happy. I need money to survive. But we want the uncertainty to stop. We want to do business. That's what we want to do. Yesterday, the Prime Minister seemed to paint a disturbing picture. He said the United States was no longer an opportunity. Are you concerned about that? It's been years that I've been working on diversification. But now, when we need to diversify our markets, it's not something we do overnight. So yes, we need to sell elsewhere, like in Europe. It takes years. And molds are heavy. We need a lot more. If we have to ship to Europe, it's going to be difficult. We can't simply find new markets overnight. It takes years. Even though we are known to be agile, we need years to find new countries. So it's not something we can do fast. Ms. Blanchette, do you feel that the government has abandoned you? That would be politics. I'm here to tell you what is happening and tell my government that we need assistance and give my impressions. Well, I prefer not to say about what is going on. That's all for me. Thank you.
Chair. Mr. Van der Park, how critical is a long-term trade agreement to the survival of the mold-making industry?
We won't be around without it.
Okay. And Mr. Jellaby, I have the same question for you. How critical is a long-term trade agreement to the survival of the industry?
Same answer. The industry will not survive without it. No question.
Mr. Van der Park, we've heard that tariffs can reach up to 50% on full product value. How does that affect your ability to quote competitively? And are you seeing customers willing to pay the upcharge?
Kind of a loaded question. Right now, we have not changed our quotes. We have not raised our price. Our quote is still the same number. We submit a quote based on our number. The problem is when we go to ship. So last August 18th, when the first steel tariff went into place, our price went up 50% on steel. Then on August 6th, when the latest was implemented, or sorry, April 6th, now when we moved to buy U.S. steel, now we're tariffed on top of the U.S. steel that we paid a premium for. We're double dipped, if not triple dipped, and now we're going back to our customers and saying, okay, we need 15% more. It's not realistic. It's not a long-term plan. It's very short. It's a conversation that Diane and myself and my ownership have every single day with our customers. We talk about the dollars and cents and being, how long can you survive having to pay that, or how long will you have a customer for?
So you're seeing customers delay, cancel, or redirect orders? And if so, where are they going instead?
The delay part, for sure. Our industry last year, again, Nicole might know numbers exactly. I would say our industry was down 15, 20, 30% in sales in mold building. Where are they going? Again, offshore. The Section 232 that's been put in place really supports a low-cost country outside of Canada.
Can those countries provide the level of quality that you do from your shop?
I'm going to say no, but every day they get more competitive, right? So every day, I'll put it this way. I travel the world constantly. We reinvent our finish line every day. We do it with technology. We do it with automation. We do it with RFID chips. We do it with smart people doing smart things. So we reinvent our finish line. And when I go to a low-cost country and I tour a shop, I know what their finish line looks like because we've already built it. And every day they're chasing to do what we do. And every time we have a negative impact on our industry or something that causes us, like Section 232, where our steel prices go up, their steel prices are totally a fraction of what we pay.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Borelli. Non, c'est à vous, Monsieur Saint-Marie. Oh non, excuse. J'ai voyagé trop de distance.
I think I went too far on my list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome to all the witnesses here. My questions will be open to all of you, so feel free to jump in to respond. These series of questions is for us to evaluate the immediate economic impacts you may have. So, and the first one is, can you quantify the direct financial impact these tariff changes have had on your operations, and whether in terms of input costs, lost contracts, or margin compression? Ms. Widow-Wiss?
So, our margin, we cannot accept 15% additional cost on any of our jobs. Our margins are very tight. We are in a very competitive industry, and because of that, to absorb 15% is just not feasible. What happens here is when the tool ships to the U.S., within 10 days, we have to pay that tariff. And then I'll have to go and invoice our customers. So I'm waiting for that. So it puts a lot of strain on us financially because we're having to really monitor our cash flow.
Mr. Jabali?
Aside from the cash flow, in my perspective, I cannot quantify losing a customer that I established relationship over 20 years for something that had nothing to do with me, my team, my company. I cannot quantify that. I cannot tell you what's the dollar value because once they go, they're gone.
Okay. Madame Blanchet?
C'est la même chose que mes collègues ont dit.
The same as my colleagues. 15% is more than our normal profit margin. It's too high. And once a client is gone, it requires a lot more effort to get them back.
Merci.
My follow-up questions would be, what operational adjustments have you been forced to make, I guess, such as delaying capital investments, reducing shifts, or reallocating production? Maybe I'll start with either Vanderpark or Widow-Wiss.
So we originally were looking at an expansion this year, a $4 million expansion. We had to pause that. We were looking at purchasing additional equipment. We stopped that as well. As for our employees, we are monitoring our shifts, but we are not hiring new employees right now. That has stopped as well. But we have to make sure, like, we have such a skilled trades. It's difficult to find employees, so we're trying to keep them on as long as we can. But it's going to be difficult if this continues on.
Mr. Jebeli?
That's a very tough question because as a business owner or an entrepreneur, we are constantly trying to better our service and products. But when there are such uncertainties, like I said, that has nothing to do with our operation, making decision for next year, where you have no idea where next year is going to take you, it's very difficult. So we are in that sad reality of not knowing what to do for the future because we haven't been told what the future will be.
Thank you. Madame Blanchette, same question.
Oui, nous avions déjà.
We had to invest last fall in spite of the uncertainty. We continue using the best technology. That's our survival strategy, the best employees and so on. But in spite of everything, we did all this. But today, well, as of the 1st of April, that was very sudden. We have not canceled any orders. Well, we are called upon to improve and invest, but for the first time, we cannot do that. We have no vision as business owners. This is a situation we never experienced before.
I understand. Thank you. I would like to follow up a little bit on what Ms. Wood talked about workforce. So can you speak to any workforce impacts you're already seeing or anticipating, including layoffs, hiring freezes, or reduced hours? Question applies to everybody, but I will start with you.
So we're more right now at the hiring freeze level. We have not done any layoffs. Like I said, it's very difficult because it's hard to find good, skilled employees in our trade. So we never want to have to resort to that. But unfortunately, if this were to continue on, it would be very difficult to.
Can I add to that? Sorry.
Yeah.
If I could, just the immediate impact right now, we don't have it because it just came out. We have work in progress. We have to finish our contracts. We have to build the tools we have. What we're afraid of, I don't know what's behind it. Our salespeople right now, they call me every day, Chris, what are we doing? What's next? What are we telling our customers? How do we quote a job? Right? So the immediate impact, we have work. We don't want to lay the people off, but we have 3 months worth of work or 4 months worth of work behind that. We don't know. Yes.
Mr. Ma, unfortunately, we're out of time, but there'll be plenty more to circle back to witnesses for additional commentary. Monsieur Semari, finalement, 6 minutes.
Finalement, merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Finally, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Greetings to all witnesses. Thank you for being here, for coming to share your realities. It's very disturbing. We hope to get to a solution so that your industry may continue doing business with certainty. My question is for Ms. Blanchet. My first question, what is the share of your turnover that relies on exports to America? 60% right now. That's a lot. Before the order of the 1st of April, the average tariffs on your exports was how much? I would say 0, because if we used American steel, there was no tariff. We all used it. There was a loophole in the system. We all used American steel. Even though it could not be supplied to everyone, we were able to access it. But now defense product will be a priority now, so everybody will not have access to it. So my answer is it was 0. There was some uncertainty. Every time a new client calls, they talk about tariffs. So we have all these narratives, and all this creates a lot of uncertainty. So the question was, the answer is 0. Now, for more than a year, it was 0 because you were able to find turnarounds. Now, since the decree, As you understand it, the tariffs will be 10% if you use American steel. Am I correct? No, that doesn't hold anymore. The tariff was 50% on the cost of the steel in the mold. For me, it could be 50,000, 100,000. Maybe the steel was maybe 20%, but the tariff on steel was 50%, unless it was American steel. But now the tariffs apply to the value of the mold. The entire value, it could be 50,000, 200,000. So now we have to pay a lot more money. There's no longer any crack in the system. No shortcut. So it's 15% because it considered equipment, industrial equipment, and after that it gets to 25%. Do I understand you well? Thank you. It's very discouraging. How did you learn about these changes, about the decree of the 2nd of April that enters into force on the 6th, considering that I'm a board member or I'm the board member of the Canadian Association of Mold Makers? I was notified. Even the board was not aware. It happened during the Easter vacation. The announcement was made on Easter Monday. Well, we received a call. It's always the next day. I learned about it because I'm a board member of CAM. Thank you very much. So your association, or rather, there are lots of economic sectors that are affected by this tariff. And your association was one of the first to intervene and to draw attention to this. We want to make sure that the government is aware of the impact of these tariffs, which no longer respects the customer agreement. The government signed a treaty agreeing on certain rules, and then the rules no longer apply. They are saying they're trying to simplify the situation. It's going to be 25 or 15% on the entire product, but the effective tariff explodes as a result. I'm kind of discouraged. Do you think it's possible to get an agreement fast with the American government to remove those tariffs? We are counting on you. We are counting on Canadian diplomacy to get to an agreement. Nothing more to reassure me, sincerely. At least reading this order, it contradicts two previous orders. Customer is not respected. There are tariffs on the value of a final product. It contradicts the 50% tariff on steel and aluminum because the real tariff rate is higher. During his first mandate, there was court action in the United States against the Trump government concerning these tariffs. Are you in touch with your clients in the United States? How are they reacting? Do they intend to lodge a complaint against the American government against these tariffs? It depends on the client. I haven't spoken to them all. We are a small business. We can't be everywhere at the same time. I can't respond to that question. Thank you. I'll have other questions during the next turn. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Saint-Marie.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses. I know that you're all wildly busy just trying to keep your companies afloat. So for the very fact that you're here means a lot to this committee, and it's very important. Mr. Chair, through you, first of all, to Mr. Vanderpark, I love the tagline of "Make things that make things." I think it's a brilliant tagline, and I guess as a committee here, we're trying to fix the things that make things that make things. So my question for you, sir, because in your testimony, your opening testimony, you said, we haven't changed a quote. Therefore, everything that you dealt with a year ago, you're literally stuck with. Either you deliver that tool, whatever that tool is, you deliver it, or you keep it on your shop floor. After, I can't even imagine how many man hours, maybe perhaps up to 1,500 man hours for one tool. And then you just never ship it and they don't get paid. And obviously the majority of the companies where you ship to in the States, in Michigan, wouldn't get paid. So I understand that you do much more than just automotive, but I'd like to really break this down for committee. So I understand that you had one tool with about 1,500 man hours in it that you were going to sell for $244,000 roughly, and you were going to pay tariffs of 1,500 Canadian or U.S. dollars, sorry, on this tool, and subsequent to the Section 232 tariffs that came down, it's now around $36,000 on one tool. Is that a fair statement, sir?
That is an exact statement.
Okay, thank you. So my next question is that reality today? Because this is maybe a couple weeks old. Is there something new you'd like to share with committee?
Sure, that was the first one. If we would have shipped that tool on the Friday, Good Friday, or the Thursday before, it would have been $1,500 and no conversation. The Monday, the tool is still sitting on our floor. Today, it has not shipped. But since then, obviously, we have other projects, and I have a full-time tariff girl now, which we didn't have before, and she sent me 4 tools that our customer asked to ship this week that we negotiated last May, that we said we would absorb all tariffs. This is how we got this, based on what the rules were in May. We expected, based on the steel tariff that went in August 18th, there would be a $25,375 tariff on these 4 tools. That tariff leaving today, if we were to ship them, is now $130,347.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Can I just add to that?
Please do.
Because my owner, as I was talking to him on the phone today, said, Chris, I don't know what to do. We negotiated in good faith and said we would take the tariffs with a very good customer we've had for a long time. And he said, do I ship the tools and pay the tariff, and he's not going to give us any more work? Do I keep the tools and make him pay the tariffs, and he's not going to send us any more work? I don't know what to do.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Vanderpark. Through you, Mr. Chair, those numbers are mind-boggling and scary as heck. So my heart bleeds for the industry, but for you specifically. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Ricci-Widowis. So as a financial, somebody in the finance with the same company, how do you keep the company afloat? Like, what are you doing? What's your magic to even navigate through this mess?
Well, I have to work very closely with our program management and our sales team, because unfortunately, in order for us to survive, these tariffs do have to be paid by our customers. We do have to send them off to them. Right now, we're talking to customers. We're working out payment terms. Unfortunately, it looks like we have to make the first payment, and then hopefully the customer will reimburse us later on. So like I said earlier, it does take a toll on us because we have to stop any reinvestment within the company because we have to conserve cash.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that answer. And I did hear what you said very loudly and clearly on your labor force. There is the uncertainty. The uncertainty is on everybody's minds, right from the top of government straight down to the person that's working on the shop floor. But the skilled trades are so wildly important to that industry, and it does not go unnoticed. I guess I'm probably running close to out of time. Mr. Jebley, to you, sir, through the chair.
Lewis, unfortunately, we are past.
Oh, my goodness.
I apologize.
Okay, I was going to say that perhaps in your next one, you could just talk about that it's not only auto, it's everything else. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Baines, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, thank you to our witnesses for joining us and sharing the troubles that are happening right now in the molding industry. And we've heard from now the second panel, and there's a lot of uncertainty and predictability and the planning, the challenges that are around with that. I want to maybe first go to Mr. Jebeli. If you could talk a little bit about how far in advance, when you're doing projects, when you're getting the order, how far in advance you have to place orders for your inputs, and how the tariffs have affected predictability for your input costs. And ultimately, I want to get to recommendations. We heard a little bit from previous witnesses who could share some recommendations they have for government, but maybe build on some things that you can share.
Sure. I gave you the examples of 2 molds within 6 months. One was $35,000 US on tariff, and the second was $135,000. I have no idea what the third one will be. So how am I supposed to plan my business going forward? And if a customer has to pay this, obviously there is a completely different set of negotiation. So that uncertainty for our businesses is crucial, because we can't provide a quotation for a project not knowing by the time it's finished what additional costs are going to be there. And one thing that I want to let everybody here know, this is not isolated to automotive. We're talking about the entire manufacturing industry in Canada. My company specializes in molds that makes these caps or other food packaging products that everybody uses and takes it for granted how it's made. And that's how it should be. Because we work on the efficiency. Our customers love our product. The molds that we make produces plastic products that are used in US, Canada, and Mexico. It's all interconnected. It's been like that for the last decades. And this tariff now, the lack of negotiation, the lack of clarity for businesses, it's detrimental to our businesses.
Yes, and look, if we look at in July when the U.S. and South Korea reached a trade deal, it was aimed at avoiding high tariffs before an August 1st deadline. And then South Korea agreed to invest $350 billion in the U.S., open its markets. But despite that, we saw Donald Trump announce another 15% tariffs on many South Korean imports. So again, the predictability that they may have negotiated ultimately did not materialize also. So we understand that this is the type of challenge that we're facing as a nation. And again, I want to get to some potential recommendations, some low-hanging fruit, things that we could get to. But maybe I'll switch to Mr. Yeah, sure.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
I was in Washington last week, and one thing that I learned there, this is from U.S. customers and U.S. counterparts in Washington telling us that U.S. looks at Canada when it comes to aerospace and defense as a vital partner, and we have to leverage that. And I had it written here that the manufacturing ecosystem, if one sector, whether it's automotive or mold making, if it goes down, it will impact the entire manufacturing sector. It will impact the capability of companies who are specializing in aerospace or defense. We do have ways to negotiate, but we have to show up to the table. And we have to tell the U.S., you are our biggest customer, we're not going anywhere. We're here to make a deal. That is my recommendation on behalf of my company and Canadian Mold Making Association, that it is our government who needs to go there and not leave until we have a deal, whatever that deal is. We need certainty. Yeah. Dragging this along for months and years and just talk is not going to save manufacturing industry. That's the sad reality.
I'm going to maybe switch to...
really quick, Mr. Baines, there's about 10 seconds. I'll let you sneak a question in.
Maybe I'll just very quickly say that if we're looking at diversifying into other markets, how How can that, do you feel optimistic that there is an opportunity to also do that at this time?
Not a chance.
To diversify into other, to sell to other markets?
Yeah, non-US and
To sell for us outside of the U.S., to sell the tool to China, impossible. To sell a tool to India, impossible. To sell a tool to Europe, highly unlikely. Our world is U.S. integrated. This is what Kuzma has done. This is what we've built our business on. So to put a 10% flat tariff, no matter what, no matter if I can do 100% U.S. steel, totally circumvents our trade deal right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Baines. Monsieur Saint-Marie, 2 minutes 30 secondes.
Merci, monsieur.
Thank you, Chair. Let me say that the legal action in the United States that led to a cancellation of tariffs was led by industry associations, and we've seen similar action by others. Unfortunately, such processes are very long. Maybe simply negotiating with the president of the U.S., who doesn't even respect our free trade agreements, is not an option. My question for Ms. Blanchet, maybe the situation will change with the midterm elections in the fall. Unfortunately, it's months away. Now, about skilled workers, how do you maintain them? How do you stem the tide? We have to wait for months till the midterm elections. Will a salary subsidy that is well targeted, is that an option until we get a solution down south? We need to find ways of keeping our employees. Most of my employees are foreign workers. So we need to find a way of keeping them, because it takes years to become a good tool maker. We need to find a way of keeping them, because, as you've heard, mold contracts cover 2 or 3 months. So we still have 2 or 3 months ahead of us. So we need to find a way of keeping those employees. Thank you. 20 to 30 seconds. If the government were to deploy major products or its national defense strategy quickly, in the short term, do you think that they will be able to give your industry contracts? Could this be beneficial to help you go through or survive this difficult time? Yes, I work in defense. I'm able to take on more contracts. If it were deployed rapidly, yes, we could accept such contracts. Thank you very much. My time has expired. I want to thank all the witnesses. Please do not hesitate to write to the committee if you have other realities you want to tell us. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Saint-Marie.
Mr. Lewis?
Monsieur Louis.
Not sure you were going to split some time. You'll have 5 minutes between the two of you. The floor is yours.
Okay, Mr. Vanderpark, what can the government do to support your business? What would you ask? Would you ask for clarity? Would you ask for some successful trade negotiations? Or would you ask for financial support to pay these extra tariffs that you're being required to pay?
So I can't give you the perfect answer, right? I can tell you that immediately, right? I need stability. I talked to a little while ago about I don't know what's coming behind. I don't know how to sell. We have work in progress right now. We don't have an answer for our sales team. We don't have an answer for our customers who are going, why do I give you a project? And you quoted, we'll just use a big number. We'll say $1 million. And in 6 months, when you go to ship it, what's it going to cost me? They can't put their CapEx. They can't put their structures in place. So I need stability. I need to get rid of the uncertainty. And again, just put it perfectly. I can't speak politics because I don't want to talk about the United States or anybody else, but we do have a Kuzma deal. We have a policy. We have something in place. We just need to be able to somehow honor that properly. Without it, it'd be very tough for Canadian manufacturing as a whole.
So I've heard conversations regarding companies that are already looking into establishing operations in the United States. Have you heard news like this amongst your peers?
For sure. We absolutely are doing the same thing we have to. It's inevitability. How's that? Sorry. It's inevitable that we have to be looking at. Jonathan, I heard earlier saying the same thing, right? Is looking at other places and you know, I have an owner who's invested millions and millions and millions of dollars and committed, and he just says it every day. He's like, Chris, with a swipe of the pen, my world has changed. Right? One proclamation.
Thank you so much. Mr. Lewis will take the rest of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, MP Borelli, for that. My first question is a follow-up for the last round that I was on for Mr. Jebeli. So I've heard you, I guess in a roundabout way, say this isn't just about automotive. This is so much larger than just only automotive. And I've heard a lot of this, like we even affect, as silly as it might sound, it's not silly, kitty litter boxes, right? Garbage pails, plastic, mold invested garbage pails, bins that you buy at Home Depot, all those things. My question for you is there anybody from the United States that can pick up the pieces to continue the entire industry, or does the United States wildly need Canadian manufacturers, mold makers, tool and die auto manufacturers to keep them going sustainable?
There is no immediate replacement in U.S. for Canadian companies. So if the business relationship between Canada and U.S. comes to an end or to a stop, the companies in U.S. most likely are going to go to Asia because of the cost. That would be the sad reality. Not that they want to, but they don't really have a choice. Or they are trying to convince Canadian companies to move to U.S.
Okay, thank you. I've got just under 1 minute left. I'll just go back to Mr. Vanderpark for one moment, please, sir. So many, and I really do appreciate the conversation because across the table, throughout the table, everybody spoke about uncertainty. You talked about stability. How long can you, and I've got about 30 seconds, how long can your company sustain under these current tariff, 232 tariffs?
Oof. I can't speak on the cash flow or the dollars and cents. All I can tell you is the sales team's uncertainty can't sell a tool. I use the analogy of the car, right? Keep being the dealership that raises 15% every time you can't sell the car. You can't. That uncertainty causes no stability in our business. Doesn't matter the person next to me, our competition. There's no stability. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know where tomorrow will be. We need help.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks very much, Mr. Lewis, Ms. Borelli. Madame O'Rourke, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair Carr. Mr. Vanderpark, to all the witnesses today, we came to this meeting with the full intention of a nonpartisan conversation because I think all of government is seized with what you're facing. So, you said we negotiate in good faith with our customers. And I think Canada also negotiated in good faith with its American counterparts. And that partner is not acting in good faith. Mr. Jebeli, you said at the stroke of a pen, it's all changed. And we all know whose pen that is. So I would invite us to collaborate to find solutions for you and your workers. I represent the riding of Guelph, where advanced manufacturing is 16,500 jobs. So I'm totally with you. De tout cœur, we say in French. So we all want this stability. We need a deal that will be a good deal and a deal that is respected by American counterparts. So we all want the same thing. So I'm curious to know, are you working with FedDev, looking at large liquidity loans, strategic investment fund, regional tariff relief initiative, all things that were brought in a year ago, all things that have been entrenched in Budget 2025, Are there any of those tools that are useful? If so, great. If not, what other tools would you need immediately? Because we'll go to bat for you. And what would you need in the medium term?
You're the money person.
So we have looked into FedDev. I believe that they do have a project that now expires or will be paused as of May 1st. So we're looking into that. You know, if there's anything that would help with wages, that'd be one thing. But unfortunately, what this does is it hurts our customer base. Like, we're losing our customer base. It's just something that's so difficult to just have to rebuild. If our orders are going to China, it's difficult to win that work back. So we need some kind of immediate action now that will help us.
So I'd ask you to clarify, what does that look like? And do you have evidence in the past couple of weeks that the orders are going to China? We all want to avoid that. So what is that? What does that help look like?
So like Chris said before, right now we do have some work in progress that we're working on. So we are keeping our employees employed. We're working away. It's just unclear. We don't know what's coming up because when tariffs were first introduced in February of 2025, it took 6 weeks to get a customer purchase order. Is that going to happen again after all this work in process gets cleaned up and shipped off? I'm not sure. It's just everything is so uncertain. Nothing's clear. It's difficult to say this was what will help us in 6 weeks when we don't know right now.
We can control, right? My time to MP Bardisi.
Sure. Mr. Vanderbark, you wanted to jump in, and then I'll ask my question.
Sorry, I was just going to say this is so new, we don't know the impact yet, right? The FedDev money is there, it's great. A loan doesn't help us because if we don't have work, we can't pay a loan, right? The FedDev is something that was paused last Friday. It has been extended, so thank you for that. We are looking at some stuff there, but to say there's an answer, I just don't have it for you right now. And the uncertainty behind, Diane, I totally went past my mind that we didn't get a PO for 6 weeks in February last year, 2025, when tariffs were announced. 6 weeks. We get 10 POs a week.
Just maybe a question or remark to Mr. Jabelli. I think it was really impactful that you shared the extent of sectors that your company serves. Do you think there's awareness among the public who are the end users of those products of where you sit in that?
Very little. The awareness, you mean for the products or what we actually do as an industry?
The products, yeah.
Yeah, it's very little. That awareness is not where it should be. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry? Quickly. I just wanted to say on behalf of the government members on this side that today we have heard you and the earlier panel. This is very serious, and we're hearing from the concrete evidence that you provided some very specific things that we can take back with our colleagues here across the floor and within government. And we know this is a 3-meeting study, but that we intend to be championing the very measures that can help in the immediate while being mindful that we simply don't have the control of the tools on the far end that is making this so difficult, but that everything that is not across the table from the United States, we're going to work very hard to make sure that we can support you during this very difficult time.
Thanks very much, Mr. Bardisi. Colleagues, I am going to use my prerogative as chair just for a brief moment to ask a question. Mr. Vanderpark, I'll direct it to you. You know, the purpose of a tariff, ostensibly, is to reduce costs for the domestic consumer, in this case in the United States. What will these tariffs, based on the discussions you've had with your American counterparts, do to the cost of these products for them? It would seem to me that what will likely occur is that They're going to stop getting it from you, which might be higher quality, might be cheaper value. It's going to become exclusively American if we continue to see the drop that you're talking about in your forecasts, and then it won't be long before those prices go up. Can you just speak very briefly about whether the decision by the administration in the United States is going to have a positive or negative impact on the American consumer?
Yeah, perfect. Our obvious main commodity that in injection mold is steel. So we purchase mill direct. There's a mill in Sorel, Quebec. There's a mill in Chicago, and there's a mill in Pennsylvania. The price of steel since the tariff announcements from February 2025 to the steel tariffs have gone up 25%. The price of the mold's gone up 25%. So exactly as you're saying, the U.S. price is going to go up to the point back to where the tariffs don't do anything. But how long does that take? I can't tell you. That's that you have it dead on the money. Counterproductive.
Thank you. My hope certainly would be that our American friends and counterparts will be able to help tell that story about why it is that free trade is beneficial to both sides of the border. Witnesses, thank you very much for making yourselves available to us. As I said to the previous panel, we understand it's a very difficult time personally, professionally, and not only for you and your organizations, but for those whose livelihoods are dependent upon your success. We appreciate the insight that you've lent to us here. If there is more information that you would like to have the committee take into consideration, you are always welcome through the clerk to provide that information, and we will be happy to review it. Witnesses, at this time, I'm going to let you go. We've got a couple of very small pieces of committee business that we have to deal with very quickly, but again, thank you for making yourselves available to us. Colleagues, one quick thing. We've done this before. Because we have these three meetings, we just have to pass a budget. Remember that these are very high predictions and not what we're actually going to spend. We've got a quote of 21,500. It won't be anywhere near that, but we just need approval to have that room. I'm looking around, seeing unanimous consent. Okay, we're going to call that budget approved. Mr. Guillemine, I understand it's unusual for me to grant the floor following proceedings, but I understand you had a question you wanted to ask me, so I will permit you an opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So, Chair, just would like you to update the committee because on March the 13th, we passed a motion to have the Minister of Industry appear here on both the main and sub estimates for 2 hours. We're going to report the votes back to the House by March the 26th, and that time has come and gone. So I was just wondering if you could update the committee on the minister's appearance.
Just so happens I can, Mr. Guillemine. So a couple of things. The first to note is that unfortunately Minister Solomon is going to have to reschedule that May 4th appearance. However, his absence makes available now the ability for Minister Joly to appear. So we've got two dates on two separate issues she'll be appearing on. The first, confirmed from her office, is the minister and her officials from 3:30 to 4:30 on May the 4th in relation to our EV study. So again, that's May 4th, 3:30 to 4:30, Minister Joly and her officials on the EV study. And then a few weeks later on May the 25th, from 3:30 to 4:30, Minister Joly, again with her officials, will appear to discuss the main estimates and the subject matter of the supplementary estimates C. So that was May 25th, 3:30, 4:30, main estimates and supplementary estimates C. Does that answer your question, Mr. Guillemine?
Yes, it does. However, in the motion that we passed, she was going to be appearing for 2 hours. Is that still the case? Because I heard 1 hour in there.
Yeah, those are the current times I have before me. We'll take it back to the minister's office. As you know, the committee doesn't have the ability to mandate ministers to adhere to the provisions of a motion that a committee passes, although I can certainly emphasize to the minister's team through the clerk that the committee did request a certain window of time and that we would encourage the minister and her team to do their best to accommodate that. For now, what I have are those two dates before us.
Yes. Thank you. And perhaps in those remarks, you could just let the minister and her team know it'd be very important to Canadians that they appear for both hours, because, you know, given everything that we're facing and all the different pressures, I think Canadians want to hear from her.
Okay. Noted. Thank you, Mr. Guglielmin. Okay, colleagues, that brings us to the end of today's meeting. We'll see you again on Thursday. Meeting adjourned.